All right, welcome everyone. I'm just going to give a few moments for the room to fill up. All right, well, welcome to the SSL version 6 and Luna version 2 Draft 2 release webinar. We've got a lot to cover, so I'm just going to jump right into it. But before we get started, I want to take care of a little housekeeping. So if there's something you'd like to go back and see again, or you'd like to share this webinar with someone who couldn't attend, the slides and our recording will be posted on our website. I should also let you know that all attendees have been automatically muted, and we'll keep it this way for the entire webinar. But of course, we still want to be able to communicate with you. If you have any questions, you can use the question pane. You can locate this at the top right by clicking on the speech bubble with the question mark. You can see it in this screenshot underlined in green. The question pane is distinct from the chat pane, which has the two layered speech bubbles. We will not be using the chat pane during this call, so be sure to use the question pane only. We'll be answering some questions through text throughout the webinar, but we won't pause the presentation to answer. However, near the end of the webinar, we will hold a live Q&A session. We will choose some of the more common questions to answer live, so keep them coming throughout the call so we know what is most relevant to you. For those of you who may be joining us for the first time, I should mention that the DLC is a nonprofit organization with a mission to reduce energy, carbon, and light pollution. We do this by delivering the right information to decision makers. And one of the main ways we do this is by creating technical requirements that underpin our qualified product lists, which support the majority of incentive programs across North America. We're going to be passing the mic around as we move between topics. So here's a look at all the faces you'll be seeing. Here is the agenda for today's call. We know that not all topics will be relevant to each person, so we're providing some approximate time so you can be sure to tune in at the right time. We wanted this webinar to help you navigate the document, so the agenda items represent the main topic headings of the technical requirements document. At the end of the presentations, we'll also be hosting a live Q&A session. As I said before, you are free to ask those questions in the question pane as you think of them. We'll record all the questions and make sure we follow up on the ones we can't answer during this call. Now I'm going to turn things over to Leora Radetsky, who's going to review the goals of this update.
Thanks, Andrew. Hey, everyone. I'll kick us off today by introducing SSL version 6 and Luna version 2 and walking you through our webinar objectives and our timeline. First, I'd like to sincerely thank you all for being part of our consortium and for attending today's webinar. Together, we're advancing product performance and building trust to support increased energy savings, elevated lighting quality, and improved lighting experiences within the built environment. Over the past 10 years, the DLC Technical Requirements and Qualified Product Lists, or QPLs, have enabled energy efficiency programs to achieve over 1,000 terawatt-hours of lighting savings. This was only possible through collaboration with all of our stakeholders, including lighting and controls manufacturers, efficiency program administrators, test labs, implementers, and QPL users who support the continued evolution of high-performing, energy-efficient, non-residential LED lighting solutions. We sincerely appreciate every one of you and look forward to working with you to make the SSL version 6 and Luna version 2 requirements substantially better and easier to use and understand. Draft 2 is an integral part of the DLC's six-step stakeholder input process. The proposals in Draft 2 are part of our fourth step of the process and are informed by research, data analysis, and feedback from stakeholders on Draft 1, including DLC members. Draft 2 is the last step to get feedback from external stakeholders before we finalize the published policy and related application processes. Speaking of feedback, we received nearly 1,100 comments from 50 organizations on our Draft 1 proposals. Comments from a wide variety of stakeholders were received, including from manufacturers, trade organizations, implementers, test labs, specifiers, and NGOs. We received the most feedback on our proposals on the new eligibility criteria, efficacy, controllability, and quality of light. These criteria underpin the primary value of listed products on our QPL, so it was wonderful to receive so much feedback from you. You can find a summary of our comments we received on the Draft 1 webpage, and the link will be in the slide deck when posted. I see that Lauren also posted a direct link to the comment summary. Thank you, Lauren. Today, we'll cover what's in Draft 2 at a high level, explain the feedback that we received in Draft 1 and how it influenced our Draft 2 changes, and invite your feedback on Draft 2. We will not be discussing fees in this webinar. As we stated in our Draft 1 webinar, it's been 5 years since our last major SSL policy update. In early 2020, SSL version 5.0 and version 5.1 focused on persistent energy savings, better product differentiation, improved lighting quality, and wider adoption of controls. And we released Luna version 1 in late 2021. The DLC's Luna requirements define performance criteria for outdoor lighting product types, helping decision makers choose products that save energy while supporting responsible outdoor nighttime lighting. Luna version 2 builds on the SSL version 6 requirements and adds additional criteria to limit light pollution and light trespass. In the last 2 years, we've learned many ways that we can make the Luna policy and the application process easier for submitters to use, while still maintaining the transparency and integrity of the Luna QPL. The revised DLC technical requirements for LED lighting, including SSL version 6 and Luna version 2, leverage advances and innovations in energy-efficient lighting over the past 5 years, controls improvements, sustainability initiatives, and increased choices in outdoor lighting that mitigate light pollution and minimize environmental impacts. If you haven't had a chance to dig in yet to Draft 2, today's webinar will highlight the scale of the changes that we're proposing. And the goals of these technical requirements are as follows: to advance energy efficiency and support decarbonization through increased efficacy thresholds and controls requirements. Strengthen the SSL QPL by expanding eligibility to support sustainability, lighting innovation, and flexible installation practices. Drive greater adoption of controls through compatibility-based product selection from SSL and NLC QPLs. And finally, to mitigate light pollution by creating more responsible outdoor lighting options. Our timeline has changed with regards to the policy publication, so let's look at these changes now. We released Draft 2 on July 28th. Originally, we had intended to release Draft 2 on July 21st, but we took an extra week to make additional simplifications and improvements to Draft 2. This second comment period will last through September 5th, and we encourage you to go through the draft and give us your feedback. We are also planning to change the final release date to November 3rd instead of October 13th. And as always, we will have a final release webinar afterwards. We will begin to accept SSL version 6.0 and Luna version 2.0 applications on January 5th, 2026. We will continue to accept SSL version 5.1 and Luna version 1.0 applications through April 20th. And August 14th will be the last date to submit your applications to update your SSL version 5.1 and version 1.0 products to SSL version 6 and version 2.0 without delisting. And finally, on October 1st, we will delist SSL version 5.1 and Luna version 1 products from the SSL and Luna QPL, and the QPL will be transformed to only show SSL version 6 and Luna version 2 qualified products. And now I'll turn it over to Casey.
Thank you, Leora. So I'll take the next few slides and just describe the Draft 2 document as a whole in case you haven't seen it yet. Or even if you have and you just have questions about why this document is so different than how DLC has previously put out our SSL and Luna technical requirements. So first and foremost, Draft 2 is really intended to be a comprehensive technical requirements document, just like Draft 1. Over the years, the DLC has developed quite a few standalone SSL technical requirement policies for specialty products or special considerations for things like power factor or products that are too large. And all of these kind of discrete and standalone policies now live together in the SSL version 6 and Luna version 2 technical requirements document. And this is really intended to make, as written here on the slide, and as I said, a comprehensive document where all that information is living in one place and is accessible to our stakeholders so that you know exactly what our technical requirements are holistically, and not any specific portion of it has to be found in a different place and you're kind of chasing things down. So this does combine our SSL version 5.1 technical requirements and Luna version 1.0 technical requirements, as well as all of those currently standalone policies. So now that you're a little bit familiar with the DLC technical requirements for LED lighting document for SSL version 6 and Luna version 2.0, let's go ahead and take a look at how you can more easily identify the changes within this document. So looking specifically at the efficacy section within the table of contents in Draft 2, and this can be applied for all other sections, but you can see 3 subsections within the efficacy and light output section. These are titled as rationale, changes in SSL version 6.0, and or key questions. These 3 subsections within any particular topic in the technical requirements are clear indicators that something has been changed or new proposals are being made in those subsections. So make sure you're looking at the table of contents and navigating throughout the document. Additionally, Table 1 provides a higher level summary of these changes, as well as links throughout the rest of the technical requirements to help you more easily navigate to those sections where changes are proposed, and to the key questions where you're able to see specifically what we're trying to get your input on. All right, so now that you're familiar with the DLC, or what's changed rather, and how to identify that information in the document, let's take a look at one notable policy change that was made for Draft 2. So you'll notice toward the very end of the document a new testing guidance section, and the structural changes that's made between Draft 1 and Draft 2 is really taking all of those minimum testing requirements, which are necessary for communicating how you can actually demonstrate compliance to any particular topic to you, right? And it takes all of those which have currently been living in those discrete topics, puts them all in one place. So you'll be able to go to one place, figure out what worst case testing and models need to be tested to demonstrate compliance with any particular requirement throughout the whole TR, rather than having to kind of chase them down from topic to topic and add them up. And in addition to this change, which we are looking for your feedback on, we're planning on making further structural changes like this to improve the accessibility of the information in the technical requirements document for the final policy release. So take a look at this, make sure you provide feedback on it. And in addition to providing feedback on this, I wanted to make sure you clearly have an understanding of how you can participate in the DLC SSL version 6 and Luna version 2 technical requirements development. So if you haven't already seen it, the Draft 2 is out, and along with that is a comment form. So just like Leora summarized for Draft 1, we're looking forward to getting a ton of comments, and we want to make sure you're able to actually provide those comments in a way that we can take them in formally, combine them with all the other feedback that we get, consider it, and make sure that we either follow up with you specifically, make it into a comment summary form off of the Draft 2 comments that have kind of been analyzed and digested, and make the necessary revisions for the final policy that's coming later this year. So make sure that you actually download that comment form, provide comments. It can be in support of or for suggestions where areas need to be improved or changed to do something better. And actually submit those within the comment form to comments@designlights.org and by the end of the comment period, which is ending September 5th, 2025. Thank you in advance for your feedback. We definitely appreciate it, and we couldn't do this without you. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Andrew, who'll be presenting on the eligibility details in Draft 2.
Thank you very much, Casey. So the lighting market is still growing, and it's our goal to continue to support energy efficiency programs by creating primary use designations, or PUDs, that represent both the market and program needs. SSL version 6 and Luna version 2 include many new PUDs that reflect this growing market. Before we get into the changes to the PUDs, I'll review the feedback that resulted in changes between drafts 1 and 2. In response to our key question in draft 1 regarding listing lamps that were previously covered by Energy Star, we received feedback that incentives would not support the added cost of listing those lamps, so we have removed this proposal in draft 2. We also asked about listing downlights and downlight retrofit kits, and the feedback we got was that doing so would create confusion in the marketplace, so we have removed this proposal as well. However, we received significant support for adding eligibility for additional types of LED replacements for HID lamps, so draft 2 includes PUDs for medium and mogul screw base HID replacement lamps. We also heard that the definitions of some new PUDs we proposed in draft 1 were unclear, so draft 2 includes clarifications to those definitions. These next few slides are all excerpts from Table 2 in the draft. I'm not going to review each line, but you can take a screenshot or wait for the recording and slides to be posted to take a longer look. We'll also be going into more detail about each of these changes later in the call. This first slide focuses on the changes to the outdoor PUDs. Beyond a slight name update from sports floods to sports lighting, there are no changes between the drafts here. In version 6, we're clarifying some terminology, adding new PUDs, combining redundant PUDs, and converting some specialty PUDs into regular PUDs. We will get into greater detail on these turtle lighting PUDs later on in the Luna portion of the call today. On this slide, you'll see that we have added PUDs for solar-powered outdoor luminaires. Again, there are not changes between drafts 1 and 2 here, so this represents changes between version 5.1 and version 6. There will be a full section on solar-powered outdoor luminaires later, but some things to note are that all outdoor requirements apply to solar PUDs. Plus, there will be a few additional data points to report on the application. We're also making some changes to indoor PUDs. Since draft 1, we have updated the name for our new strip PUD from direct linear strip to linear ambient strip, and version 6 proposes converting several other PUDs from specialty. Let me explain the specialty conversions. The specialty designation was created to help uncommon product types receive incentives, but over the years it has caused some confusion for our members, as some have been unclear on whether these products meet all DLC requirements. To answer that question, specialty PUDs must meet all performance requirements of their analogous regular PUDs except for distribution. We selected these 5 PUDs for conversion based on the quantity of listings on the QPL, as well as sustained interest in listing them across updates to the SSL program. These behaviors indicated to us that these products should no longer be considered specialty. We're converting sports lighting, free types of hazardous environment products, and indirect high bays. These are the same 5 PUDs we proposed to convert in draft 1, but for draft 2, we are now proposing distribution requirements. Here's a look at the new distribution requirements for the converted specialty PUDs, which can be found in Table 13 in the document. But I'm not going to linger here, so you can download these slides later and have a better look. Version 6 also introduces a new linear ambient option, the linear ambient strip. This was created in response to member program feedback that there's a need to differentiate between linear products that are more utilitarian in nature and linear products that would be found in more public areas, so that incentives can be right-sized to the cost of the products. The feedback we received was that the technical distinctions we proposed were not sufficient, so draft 2 introduces 2 changes to the PUD. We've updated the name of this new PUD from direct linear strip to linear ambient strip to reflect the fact that we have removed distribution requirements. So products under this PUD will no longer have to adhere to a direct distribution pattern. We are also limiting the acceptable width to a maximum of 6 inches. However, although we have opened up eligibility for products marketed as cove lighting for the direct and indirect linear PUDs, products marketed as cove lighting are not eligible for the linear ambient strip. As I covered earlier, we are no longer proposing to create PUDs for lamps previously covered by Energy Star, but Draft 2 does include new PUDs for replacements for HID lamps. These decisions were made based on feedback regarding the availability of incentives versus the cost of DLC qualification. Here's a look at those new PUDs here, both directional and omnidirectional replacement lamps. We also heard the need for directional and omnidirectional PUDs for mobile screw-base lamps, and we have included those in Draft 2 as well. And we have also removed our proposal to cover downlights and downlight retrofit kits. The feedback we received was that duplicating the Energy Star list would create confusion. To be clear, we never intended to duplicate the Energy Star list. We made this proposal in response to uncertainty around federal funding to be proactive in supporting our members. When Energy Star announced it was sunsetting its lighting program, our members indicated that downlights and downlight retrofit kits were the most important types of products covered by Energy Star for their programs. So we worked to ensure our members would be covered and encourage Energy Star to maintain its downlight listings. Our proposal to pick up downlights was a continuation of this goal, but at this time, Energy Star is still operational and the downlight list has seen recent updates. We will continue to monitor the situation and may revisit this topic in the future should anything change at Energy Star. Now I will move into our section on non-performance reporting. Non-performance reporting was previously a subsection of eligibility, but has been separated into its own section in Draft 2. The purpose of non-performance reporting is to make it easier for incentive program reviewers to identify that a product is not only qualified, but is being used as it was intended. This prevents the DLC from creating too many additional PUDs. Incentive program requirements may also be more restrictive than D requirements, and the non-performance reporting will help programs ensure those requirements are being met. We got a lot of feedback on non-performance reporting that resulted in changes to the requirements. Our requirements for product images were in line with how manufacturers represent products, so in Draft 2, we have allowed photorealistic renderings in addition to photographs. We also received varying feedback that either of the two options for the spec sheets on the QPL wasn't ideal for manufacturers. In Draft 2, we improved the language to make it clear that we aren't going to require one or the other. Either the DLC hosted option of the link or the link may be used. We heard that the mounting option requirement was seen as too duplicative to the information on spec sheets, so we have removed that requirement entirely. Finally, our environmental protection reporting options didn't offer a wide enough range of ratings, so we have expanded those options for reporting in Draft 2. So now we'll review some of these in more detail. First, the product dimensions must be reported and can be printed in either standard or metric units. Form factor must also be reported, and one small change in Draft 2 is that form factor will now be assigned by the DLC rather than self-identified by the submitter. These will be identified through a combination of the PUD, dimensions, and the product image. The one exception to this is that for the non-conforming form factor, manufacturers may assign their own descriptive term. I'm not going to show it today, but you can review the list of form factor descriptors in Table 3, and we are looking for feedback on the available list of options. And as I said previously, we have removed mounting options reporting requirement in Draft 2, but the options for environmental protection ratings have expanded in Draft 2 to better reflect the range of environments that products may be built to withstand. You can review the options in Table 4. Beyond reporting the UL environmental rating, we do not require the reporting of any specific rating. However, if it is listed on the sheet, it must be reported and will be listed on the QPL. And conversely, if you want it shown on the QPL, it must be on your spec sheet. We have also kept our requirements for product images and spec sheets, and I will go into more detail in each of these. We have relaxed our requirements for product images in Draft 2. Manufacturers are still required to submit product images, but an important clarification I should make is that a different image may be submitted for each product variation, but manufacturers are not required to do so. A single image may be submitted to represent a product family. This is not a change from Draft 1, but we did receive comments that showed there was some confusion over this requirement. And to reduce burden on the manufacturer for gathering submission materials, Draft 2 proposes to allow photorealistic renderings instead of only photographs. We have made no changes to our spec sheet requirements in Draft 2, but I wanted to clarify a few key points for everyone. There are two options for submitting a spec sheet. First, the DLC can host the document. This can be the same spec sheet submitted with the application, or it can be swapped out for a different one, provided it still meets all of the requirements in section 3.7.1 on page 23. The second option is for the manufacturer to provide a link to view the spec sheet on their website. Again, this linked document must meet all of the requirements, and the links will be checked intermittently by the DLC to ensure they are still functioning. There were a lot of comments concerned with how to handle updates to products that don't affect the listing status, so one important item to clarify is that spec sheets using either option can be updated at any time. You do not need to wait to go through the update application process. The DLC will still vet the changes, but there is no restriction on updates. Now I'm going to turn things over to Adrian.
Thank you, Andrew. I'll now go over our proposals for efficacy and output changes. The standard efficacy thresholds proposed in Draft 2 are a weighted average of 14% higher than in version 5.1, lowered from 17% in Draft 1, with the largest increase for an individual product type now being 19% and the smallest at 4%. Our proposals are determined primarily based on efficacy statistics from version 5.1 qualified products, and we also consider allowances for low CCT and high quality products, interactions with other proposals in this document, market trends and projections, and product ages. Feedback on our Draft 1 proposal included comments saying that some proposed efficacy thresholds were too high, especially for outdoor products. As a result, we lowered some of the highest outdoor and lamp efficacy thresholds. We also heard that our Draft 1 proposal to assign a unique threshold to each outdoor primary use designation, or PUD, would increase complexity for submitters, so we have adjusted these thresholds to 2 levels, still dependent on PUD. Many commenters also noted that using bare lamp thresholds as opposed to in luminaire would greatly reduce burden, so we have added separate thresholds for mogul-based lamps qualified under the new bare lamp general applications, as well as new bare lamp thresholds for medium-based replacement lamps. These are our proposed thresholds for indoor non-amber products. All values that I will display with green boxes around them have been changed from Draft 1. In Draft 2, we are proposing lower thresholds specifically for hazardous high bay and low bay products, as these PUDs are new in version 6. For outdoor thresholds, in version 5.1, we had a single threshold at 105 lumens per watt for the entire outdoor category. In version 6 Draft 2, we are proposing 2 levels depending on PUD. PUDs with higher efficacy on average, such as wall-mounted and area and roadway, have a proposed threshold of 125 lumens per watt, and low efficacy PUDs, such as decorative and bollards, have a proposed threshold of 115 lumens per watt. This allows us to save more energy for high efficacy PUDs while avoiding disadvantaging lower efficacy PUDs, as well as keeping complexity low. For lamps, we have introduced new bare lamp thresholds for mogul-based and medium-based general applications. For in-luminaire mogul-based products, our proposed thresholds align with the analogous luminaire thresholds for high bay and low bay, and the lower level outdoor threshold for outdoor. In version 6, amber products are proposed to have their own efficacy thresholds that are the same across all general applications and PUDs. These thresholds were set based on market assessments for each type of amber LED technology we are proposing to allow. So, to recap, thresholds for indoor luminaires and lamps are split out at the general application level, as was done in version 5.1. Thresholds for outdoor luminaires are determined based on PUD, and for amber products of any category, thresholds are based on LED technology and do not depend on general application or PUD. Our proposed allowances for low CCT products are more granular than in version 5.1. We're setting higher allowances for all products with a CCT of 2700K or lower, and we are now accommodating 2000K and 1800K products, which are lower efficacy on average. Other allowances include a 5 or 10% allowance for color rendition, depending on product category and measured values, unchanged from version 5.1. And in Draft 2, we are proposing to allow standard and premium troffer, linear ambient, low bay, and high bay products to use a 10% UGR allowance. This is changed from Draft 1, which only included this allowance for troffers. For premium, we are proposing to set thresholds at 20 lumens per watt above standard across the board. In version 5.1, this was 15 lumens per watt, but our goal of version 6 is to differentiate a portion of the most energy efficient products. A very large percentage of version 5.1 qualified products met premium thresholds, so in version 6, we set these thresholds higher relative to standard to make premium more meaningful and impactful from an energy saving perspective. I'll briefly touch on output as well. Minor adjustments and additions to our output thresholds were also made in Draft 2. This table displays only the new values. We have lowered the bottom range for products to qualify to the outdoor low output general application, and we have added minimum output thresholds for the new bare lamp general applications. Now I'll hand it to Casey for quality of light.
All right, thank you, Adrian. So first off, I wanted to set the stage by just a reminder of kind of what DLC has done in version 5.1, what quality of light is. So for starters, I guess quality of light from a DLC perspective is really things that encompass the characteristics of lighting that impact things like productivity, well-being, performance, mood, customer satisfaction, right, and much more. In version 5.1, really was a large step for DLC in terms of establishing new quality-based requirements, focusing on spectral quality, light distribution, glare, etc., in attempts to ensure that there is an acceptable minimum quality of light for all DLC listed products. Version 6 builds on that, and so I'll go ahead and take a look at basically how the SSL version 6 and Luna version 2 build on these version 5.1 efforts and review some of the goals and high-level requirement details that are informing these Draft 2 proposals. So first off, the goal is to continue supporting those lighting characteristics that improve the visual environment. In addition to that, supporting mitigation of light pollution. And in general, how we're manifesting these is by introducing non-white light options and maximum CCT limits, as well as introducing standardized color maintenance reporting options in addition to all of the other suite of quality of light criterion that were established in version 5.1. So with that, let's go ahead and take a look at some of the feedback that we received on Draft 1 and how that impacted the Draft 2 proposals. So these details are on pages 33 through 47, but summarized here. Basically, in Draft 1, we were proposing that outdoor distribution testing be tested at 3000 Kelvin. This got quite a bit of pushback, and so we removed that proposal for Draft 2. Additionally, specific to the CS4 and CS7 color maintenance reporting requirement proposed in Draft 1, we heard that it is too soon for establishing TN35 reporting requirements. So what we've done is made it no longer required to report, but optional to report. This is going to help us continue to have an opportunity to get that data from a standard that's been developed by industry and transition away from our custom color maintenance requirements that were introduced in version 5.1. And last but not least, we heard that the non-white light options shouldn't be restricted to Luna only for outdoor applications. So in Draft 2, all the non-white light options that were eligible in Draft 1 for indoor and for Luna outdoor are now also eligible for all standard outdoor listing pathways. And the details for these can be found on pages 33 through 47. So now let's go ahead and review the quality of light requirement changes in Draft 2 on the next few slides. First, I wanted to go over the non-white light options that are being introduced in SSL version 6 and Luna version to Draft 2. So just like in Draft 1, there are eligibility details included in the draft for the newer, lower CCT options coming from the updated 278.377.2024 standard for 1800 and 2000 Kelvin CCTs. In addition to that, there are details defining direct emission amber, phosphor converted amber, filtered amber, and the requirements that those product types need to meet in terms of chromaticity, and those details can be found in section 2.5.3 of the technical requirements. As I mentioned on the previous slide, these non-white light options are eligible for indoor and outdoor, and no longer restricted to Luna for outdoor in Draft 2. Additionally, the color rendition, color maintenance, and other suite of color quality requirements that are in place for all version 5.1 products today would not have thresholds proposed for these non-white light options, but the values and performance data must still be measured and reported. All right. And all of these details for chromaticity for these, color rendition, and any other quality of light requirements that are not changing from version 5.1 can be found in Table 10 in Draft 2. All right. So now that this is a little bit more clear, let's take a look at the full set of chromaticity requirements that we have for all product types proposed in Draft 2. So as you can see here, the table looks a little bit different, but this is an excerpt from Table 10 where we've reorganized it and tried to hopefully make it more simple and easier to understand. But basically, the changes from Draft 1 are that all outdoor products still have that 5000K CCT maximum, but that lower CCT options have been introduced. So these are still changes from what they are today for SSL, but maintained from Draft 1, with the change being that those lower CCT options are available for all outdoor products. Exceptions to these are that sports lighting and fuel pump canopy now have a higher CCT maximum proposed of 5700 Kelvin rather than 5000. In addition to that, the non-amber Luna outdoor products can also have the lower CCT options down to 1800K. All right, so now that we've gone over the chromaticity details for all those products, let's look at one last set of details for additional spectral compliance information that is required for all amber products that's proposed in Draft 2. So in the green boxes, you can see basically that Draft 2 is proposing that in addition to the Draft 1 proposal, the parent products for all amber product listings would also display the actual SPDX document that's the raw spectral data for those amber products for the ones that have actually been tested. In addition to the SPDX document being published on the QPL, we're proposing that the SPD plot be published, as well as information for dominant wavelength and chromaticity coordinates. This is intended to supply the necessary information to the lighting decision makers who are using the QPL and looking specifically for this information from or for all amber products. All right, so now that we've gone over that, let's take a look at the color maintenance requirements that are proposed in Draft 2. So super minor change here from Draft 1, but version 6 does maintain the version 5.1 color maintenance requirements that are already in process, and in addition to that, proposes optional reporting of CS4 and CS7 values coming from the same LM80 test data that you already have to demonstrate compliance to things like TM21 or lumen maintenance and color maintenance today, but coming from the ANSI TM35 2019 standard. And this again is supporting DLC transitioning away from our custom color maintenance requirements today to relying on an industry developed and consensus-based standard values and performance information that we'd like to show on the QPL for all products one day, hopefully not too far down the road. And so with that, I'll be handing the mic back to Jason, who will be presenting on the controllability details in Draft 2.
Thanks, Casey. I'm going to talk about controllability. The ultimate goal of the controllability section in version 6 is to collect information on controls variations within DLC product IDs that will enable energy efficiency programs to more confidently provide incentives for lighting products with integral controls. We received significant feedback on the controllability proposals in Draft 1. Here are some of the messages we've received and adjustments we've made. We've heard that the controls categories and controls options tables are too complicated, so we have simplified those. I'll go over that in a second. We also heard that dimming is not required for all applications. So we've removed the requirements for all products to be dimmable, and we're maintaining the dimming capability requirements from version 5.1. We also heard that some options in the controls options tables are missing or extraneous, so we've added or removed those where necessary. And we also heard that the controls ready receptacles are sometimes mounted on the sides of luminaires, so we added that possibility as well. To review, the controls categories are 6 categories for all products. In version 2, we simplified 2 tables from Draft 1 had 2 separate tables for indoor and outdoor luminaires. In Draft 2, we've simplified that to 1 table for all products. The controls categories, I'll go through the next ones. Next, please. Category 1 is a product with no integral controls. Category 2 is a product that we're calling controls ready, and that is defined as the ability to add a control on site without wiring or modifying the fixture. Category 3 is a product with one integral sensor function. Category 4 is a product with 2 or more integral sensor functions. Category 5 is a product with a network controller on board, and the network controller speaks to a NLC QPL listed system. Category 6 is a product with a network controller on board plus 2 or more sensor functions, otherwise known as LLLC, or luminaire level lighting control. To implement all of this, we also simplified to a single controls options table. That required adding a couple columns and adjusting a few things here. So we added the ability to report on dimming capability and the minimum dimming level, and then added that side receptacle option to the controls ready columns. Next slide, please. For field adjustable products, we also made a few adjustments. So field adjustable, we are reorganizing how we collect and display field adjustable information on the QPL to better align with industry practice and to better support this growing product category of products. For the feedback we got, we heard that the proposal to ship the field adjustable light output products at the lowest setting was burdensome and unnecessary, so we've removed that requirement. We also heard that the proposed requirement to ship field adjustable color temperature products at the lowest color temperature was burdensome and unnecessary. We've removed that requirement for indoor luminaires. We also got several comments on label requirements. And just to note that neither Draft 1 nor Draft 2 contain any labeling requirements for field adjustable attributes on products. We just want that submitted on the spec sheet. For Phalo products, we are removing the requirement that products ship at their lowest output and water setting, but we were proposing that manufacturers report that value on their spec sheets and the QPL so that customers can know what that will be. For field adjustable color temperature products, we have removed the requirement that indoor products ship at the lowest temperature, but are maintaining that proposal for outdoor products. For field adjustable light distribution products, we are proposing that manufacturers report what the default setting is in various ways, depending on what the product is. So those are our changes for field adjustable products. I'm going to send it back to Casey for premium.
Thank you, Jason. And hello again, everyone. All right, so I'll be going over premium now. And just as a reminder, today premium is intended to be a classification tier above standard that really differentiates products that are of higher energy efficiency and higher controllability, along with some better quality of light performance. Version 6, or SSL version 6 and Luna version 2 really is trying to deepen those values and focusing more on enhancing those controls requirements, a higher efficacy, and longer lifetime requirements. And ultimately, these features are intended to kind of be combined and deliver a higher quality lighting solution that also supports sustainability goals, enhances the visual performance, lowers the total cost of ownership, etc., and supporting members, whether they're looking at LED to LED retrofits or controlled LED incentive tiers and above no controls or category 1 that Jason was talking about earlier. So by focusing on these things, hopefully we'll be able to actually accomplish those things. We did get a lot of input on this in draft 1, so now let's go ahead and take a look at the actual feedback and changes from draft 1 that we got at a high level. So first and foremost, there was quite a bit of pushback on digital drivers being required for premium and how other technologies, in addition to digital drivers, can be useful in accomplishing those same additional energy savings from a controls perspective. So draft 2 removes the digital driver requirement that was proposed in draft 1. Additionally, we heard that the increased value from a longer lifetime for premium listings is important for members and having increased confidence in actually realizing those energy savings estimates over the life of the product. So draft 2 proposes a longer driver lifetime for premium. Again, these details can be found on page 86 in the TR. And so now that we've actually taken a look at these kind of high-level changes and feedback received, let's take a look at the full set of premium requirements that are proposed in the draft. So first and foremost is efficacy. And just like Adrian was describing earlier, this is unchanged from draft 1. Premium is still looking at a 20 lumen per watt delta over version 6 standard efficacy requirements. So any PUD efficacy threshold you look at for standard, add 20 lumens per watt to it, and that's the premium threshold. So this is unchanged from version 6 draft 1. It's already discussed, and so let's go ahead and move on to the next premium topic, which is controllability. Just like Jason was describing earlier, there are quite a few changes in general for controllability and controls information in SSL version 6 and Luna version 2, and premium adds on to that, focusing specifically on achieving greater energy savings and better integration with control systems for premium products and supporting those advanced and controlled LED lighting incentive tiers and installation. So just like in version 5.1, continuous dimming is still required with the change that it's down to 10% or lower in version 6. This is not a change from the proposal in draft 1. Also, there should be 3 images at the bottom. If you can click forward for me two more times. The restriction for premium is focused on certain controls categories that we understand align with specific incentive tiers through our TRM research. We're happy to discuss this in more detail or provide additional information, but essentially that restriction is focused on controls-ready products, or category 2, networked controlled products with an NLC QPL listed product in controls category 5, as well as luminaire level lighting control products, or those with a network lighting controller and 2 or more sensor functions. These 3 things, along with continuous dimming, are really what we think is absolutely necessary for increased incentive tier options and basically the advancement or accelerated adoption of controlled LED lighting solutions. So that actually concludes the controllability details in premium, and we can go and move to the next topic on discomfort glare. So this one here, discomfort glare premium requirements are really intended to support glare mitigation with more recognition of those metric trade-offs. And just like in draft 1, it's maintained for troughers, but those other version 5.1 discomfort glare requirements have been removed from other product types. So no change here from draft 1. And let's go ahead and move on to the next topic, which is chromaticity. Just like discomfort glare, this has not changed since draft 1 and actually hasn't changed since version 5.1. So this is focused on the color output of all products and really ensuring that premium products between manufacturers and within product lines have an increased color uniformity, not in terms of spatial distribution, but just color consistency from one luminaire or product to the next. It still maintains those stricter 4-step quadrangle requirements that exist today in version 5.1 and has the same CCT range between 2200K and up to whatever the maximum is for that specific PUD. And just please note, just like in Draft 1, non-white light options are not proposed as eligible for premium. So if you have specific feedback on that, make sure you let us know in the comment form. And now we've gone over chromaticity. Let's take a look at the next premium criterion, which is lumen maintenance. So lumen maintenance and the next set of criteria, which is driver lifetime, are really both focused on extending product lifetime and making sure that members who are incentivizing products and customers who are looking for those energy savings and reduced expenses are actually realizing them from the point of their initial investment. So the premium lumen maintenance requirement has not changed since version 5.1 and is still maintaining that L90 requirement of 36,000 hours in addition to the L70 requirement of 50,000 hours, which is the baseline for all of the LC listings. And now we've gone over lumen maintenance. Take a look at the last premium requirement, which is specific to driver lifetime. So as I mentioned earlier, driver lifetime is one of the changed areas in Draft 2. Based on the feedback that we heard in Draft 1, that this value adder for premium having longer lifetime over standard listings is important, and especially understanding how important lifetime is to members and having high confidence that those energy savings are actually going to be realized throughout the life of the product is what led to this Draft 2 proposal for a driver lifetime of at least 100,000 hours for all premium products. And a reminder that standard driver lifetime is now at least 50,000 hours for all products. So we hope that with this suite of driver lifetime, longer lifetime requirements, increased energy efficacy thresholds, increased controllability requirements that version 6, SSL version 6 and Luna version 2 is proposing for all premium products, that our members are really going to see more value for premium and really enable them to kind of offer greater incentives for products that not only meet these more strict thresholds, but enable deeper energy savings tied to controllability, higher luminaire level performance upfront, longer lifetime, just the overall value coming from premium in SSL version 6 and Luna version 2. And with that, I'll go ahead and hand the mic to Adrian, who'll present the details on solar-powered outdoor luminaires.
Thank you. I'll now get into some specifics on our requirements for outdoor solar-powered luminaires. Solar-powered luminaires support decarbonization and energy resilience. These systems typically include 3 major components: a solar panel, a battery, and a luminaire, which draws power from the battery, controlled by a charge controller. To ensure that the luminaire has enough power to remain operational, many factors such as location and light level needs are taken into account. When selecting and installing a product, by listing solar-powered luminaires on the QPL, the DLC aims to collect and display the critical performance information needed to support system validation. The feedback we received on our Draft 1 proposal was generally supportive, and in Draft 2, we only made language changes, adding acceptable terms and changing the separate components configuration to split type to align with the industry. In version 6, DLC qualification applies only to the luminaire component of the product. At this time, the DLC is not proposing to qualify solar panels, batteries, or any other system parts that aren't otherwise qualified under the outdoor luminaire category. All requirements for outdoor luminaires listed in the other sections of this draft apply to solar luminaires as well, and there are some additional reported information required for solar luminaires. If we look at this table, the configuration specifies how the product components are configured. Integrated systems typically include the solar panel, the battery, and the luminaire in one component, and often the solar panel is integrated into the top of the luminaire head. For the split type configuration, the luminaire is installed separately from the solar panel and battery. Luminaires designed to be part of a solar luminaire system, but sold separately from the other components, may indicate luminaire only as their configuration. Information about other components does not apply to these products. Grid connection specifies whether a solar luminaire is off-grid or hybrid. Off-grid products do not have any connection to the grid, eliminating the need for wired connections, and reducing infrastructure costs and supporting energy independence. Hybrid products draw power from both the solar panel and the grid, typically treating the grid as a backup in case the battery runs out. Other reported fields include battery type, PV wattage, recommended install height, battery capacity, battery lifetime, and solar panel lifetime. Next, I will go over our proposal to support sustainability in lighting. To help support the DLC's mission of carbon reduction and other sustainability efforts in the lighting industry, version 6 introduces an optionally reported QPL field for certifications centered around sustainability. Because other sections of our technical requirements are focused primarily on impacts from the use phase of lighting products, in version 6, we use sustainability to refer to other stages of the product's life cycle. This could include embodied carbon, material health, recyclability, and more. We received some feedback about the certifications we proposed to list. Commenters suggested shortening the list from draft 1 to reduce complexity, so we did whittle down the list of certifications to include only those that apply more directly to lighting. There were comments about specific certification details that we took into account, and there was concern over the burden of tracking documents and expiration dates. We included more detail in draft 2 around how expiration dates will be reported and documentation will be updated. Displayed here is the list of certifications we allow submitters to report to the QPL in draft 2. The QPL will display only that the product has the reported certification, but will not display any documentation. For a deeper dive into the topics of sustainability and resilience in lighting, please attend our webinar on August 27th, which will feature a panel of experts and highlight why these topics are important. Now I'll hand it back to Casey for color tunable products.
Thank you, Adrian. Hello again, everyone. So yeah, now I'll go ahead and talk about the color tunable product details in draft 2. So if you read draft 1, you should feel that the details in draft 2 are awfully familiar. Again, this is really, these proposals in the color tunable policy section are really intended to support incentives for color tunable products and align with the trends that we see from industry shifting towards more tunable products, more controls, and reduced SKUs coming from either field adjustability or color tunability. First and foremost, full color tunable products today are those products that don't stick within the CCT quadrangles, but could become monochromatic in nature or put out any kind of color just about, depending on exactly what the controls are and what the LEDs inside of them are, and the UI. But those are proposed as eligible still in draft 2. And the other minor change from version 5.1 is that to recognize the change in scope from C78 through 77, 2024, with adding in those new lower CCT options of 1800K and 2000K. It's no longer just white light, and those CCT quadrangles or products are now non-white also. So CCT tunable products is what we're going to be calling things that we've been traditionally calling white tunable. So they may be anywhere within those eligible CCTs, but not just white anywhere. So basically not a whole lot of changes to color tunable in general. That does conclude that section, and I'll go ahead and move on to the lumen maintenance and driver lifetime details. So sorry, we can go ahead and go to the next slide. But yeah, as I alluded to in the premium section, lifetime and ensuring that those product savings and energy savings are actually realized over the course of the product being used. And having those increased confidence for all products on the SSL QPL standard driver lifetime is still being maintained in draft 2, just like it was in draft 1. In addition to that, we are implementing that longer premium driver lifetime requirement. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of the feedback that we received on these topics and what came of that in draft 2. So just like in premium, this does tie all the details together, but it has the increase for premium driver lifetime requirement that we heard from comments and include the details about that in this section. We also were looking for input on how the new driver lifetime requirement for standard is received by industry, and one of the major concerns that we heard on draft 1 is the potential increase to the testing the manufacturers would need to do to actually demonstrate compliance for all standard products. So in draft 2, we've included a key question and are looking specifically for your input on whether or not in-house or benchtop thermal testing should be accepted for drivers or LEDs, one or the other, and how that may present risks or not to you and the integrity of the QPL. So make sure you take a look at that, provide comments, and thank you in advance. So now let's go ahead and take a look at table 24 on the next slide and see what these actually look like rather than me just speaking to them. So you can see here for all products, whether they're non-white light being 1800K, 2000K, or those amber options, or a white CCT product, they have L70 thresholds that are set for them, not changed from draft 1. The non-white light option was introduced in draft 1. It doesn't exist in version 5.1 today since we don't have a pathway for those products to participate. And noting here also that those are still not eligible for premium. The one change that you'll see in table 24 from draft 1 is that increased driver lifetime threshold for premium that I already spoke about in the premium section of the webinar earlier today. So we are looking for your input on this specifically, and thank you in advance for that input. And I'll go ahead and hand it over to Leora, who will talk about the Luna details.
Great. Thank you, Casey. All right, let's look at what's changing in Luna version 2.0. So Luna version 2.0 is a dark sky solution that supports energy efficiency programs, cities and municipalities, and all outdoor lighting decision makers looking for outdoor lighting that saves energy and minimizes light pollution. As I mentioned previously, Luna notably leverages the SSL requirements to ensure that all Luna listed products are energy efficient, high quality, and controllable. Luna qualified products must first meet the version 6 standard or premium classifications, whichever is applicable based on your desired classification, and of course the LED type. Luna version 2.0 continues our support for outdoor lighting that mitigates light pollution, and to achieve these goals, we're expanding eligible product types and simplifying the testing and controls requirements without reducing Luna's rigor. Luna continues to balance additional testing and reporting requirements with the additional testing needed to ensure Luna's diligent approach, while minimizing the additional burden that we know this creates for submitters. With Luna version 2.0, we've minimized some of the testing requirements, especially those that occur in the integrating sphere, and no longer have incremental controllability requirements beyond version 6. Here are some of the additional changes that we will be making to Luna version 2 in draft 2. So some of the feedback that we received that drove these changes are as follows. So we heard that we should increase the maximum light output for turtle lighting products. And as a result of these feedback, we have increased the maximum light output for some of the products, although not for bollards. We also heard from several commenters that we should add SP ratio reporting to improve understanding of sky glow impacts. And this is based on deep research that Tony Esposito and I have conducted in the past few years and published. And as a result of this feedback, we are proposing to calculate the SP ratio in our Luna pre-submission tool and to show this data on the QPL for tested parent products. And then finally, we heard that we should simplify our lamp testing requirements and allow bare lamps to be listed to Luna version 2. In draft 2, we are allowing bare lamps to be listed to Luna version 2, with some additional threshold requirements beyond SSL version 6 to limit light pollution. And here are some of the details from Table 29. This is an excerpt from Table 29 for bare lamp, medium screw base, and mogul screw base lamps, or PUDs, to be qualified to Luna. Unlike luminaires and retrofit kits, which are also allowed to qualify to Luna and are also described in this table, these bare lamps do not have a maximum U rating threshold because the luminaire obviously provides that in addition. But they still do have a maximum light output threshold. You can see that in the fourth column in this table, and a maximum CCT of 2700K. Now, Draft 2 also clarifies and simplifies the spectral reporting requirements for Luna version 2. In Draft 2, as I mentioned before, we have added SP ratio reporting for tested products, for tested parent products. SP ratios are an excellent predictor of sky glow impacts due to spectrum, and lower SP ratios indicate that the products have a lower tendency to increase sky glow based on human perception. So let's look at the table with these details. This is an excerpt from table 30. It's also been simplified greatly, so it'll fit on one slide. But this excerpt shows that SP ratio reporting is now part of the required QPL listing for non-amber Luna products as well as for amber Luna products, and that is new to Draft 2. Luna version 2.0 also provides eligibility options for turtle lighting luminaires to support adoption of high-quality products. These products must meet the Luna version 2 requirements for shielding and testing that I mentioned previously, and have additional requirements that are important so as not to disorient sea turtles from entering the surf at night. These include the requirements to use direct emission amber LEDs or narrowband amber LEDs, the requirement to have zero uplight, and thresholds on high angle light and maximum light output. Let's look at the details of our changes in Draft 2. This is Table 31, which is a table that contains all of the requirements for the 3 turtle lighting product types, or PUDs, that are specific to Luna version 2.0. As a reminder, these products are also subject to the SSL version 6 requirements for efficacy, minimum light output, color rendition and color maintenance reporting, lumen maintenance and driver lifetimes that Casey and others have mentioned previously, so they have to meet those as a baseline. And then in Draft 2, we have increased the maximum light output for turtle lighting area and roadway luminaires to 8,000 lumens, and the maximum light output for turtle lighting wall-mounted area luminaires, or colloquially known as wall packs, to 2,500 lumens. And I just want to point out that we have several new key questions for Luna version 2 in Draft 2, and look forward to hearing from you on these proposals and changes. Thank you very much for your support for Luna, and I will turn it back over to Casey.
All right, thank you, Leora. And so we are entering the last 2 topic sections for today's webinar, and we're a little bit behind, so I'm going to go kind of fast, but if you have any questions, make sure you reach out. So first up is going to be alternatively sourced equivalent components. And really, this is a request that's been brought to DLC by manufacturers for several years now, and we're happy to get it out in SSL version 6 and Luna version 2. It's really aimed at improving and ensuring QPL and integrity by making sure that a product that gets listed on the QPL that has these alternate subcomponents, whether they're alternate LEDs or alternate drivers, still meet those subcomponent lifetime performance requirements, still understand all of the options and variations that exist, and that those worst case products are still tested for LM79 and actually demonstrating compliance with our set of requirements. And all of this put together is making sure that, you know, the thing you see on the QPL is actually what you're going to get in real life. There were not a whole lot of changes to this in Draft 2, but there was some feedback that we received. And so I'll go ahead and go over that now. First and foremost, we did ask a key question in Draft 1, focused on understanding the luminaire level implications of making these subcomponent changes and whether or not we should have additional LM79 testing to demonstrate equivalence between luminaires with these different subcomponents. Overwhelmingly heard no, that would be too costly, too burdensome, and that worst case testing should still be the path forward. So that's what we've done. There's no additional LM79 tests required for demonstrating compliance, but the worst case for all subcomponent variations still needs to be tested. Additionally, just like I mentioned in driver lifetime details earlier, we're looking for input on whether or not we should accept in-house or benchtop thermal testing to demonstrate compliance at the subcomponent level. And with that, I'll conclude this section and we can go ahead and move to the last section focused on the additional reporting requirements in Draft 2. So these were introduced in version 5.1 to ensure that the test reports that we're getting are up to date, following industry requirements, and not really piecing specific information, but getting all of it together. And version 6 adds on to that. continuing to support those revised IES standards and no longer allowing LM7908. And further, taking the next step, that all of these LM79 test reports must be submitted in a PDF format with specific requirements for each of these different test reports and what information must be provided within them. There are some changes to the details in this that I won't go into detail on, but some of the feedback and changes that we heard essentially are that the LM79 image requirement for those LM79 test reports is too strict. So we made some changes that relaxed that image requirement specific within what the product image is of an LM79 test report. And additionally, we heard that products that are qualified today to LM7908 shouldn't have to retest to the new version just to demonstrate compliance again, and that they should be grandfathered in. So that's our plan. And details for the additional reporting information can be found on pages 151 through 156. So with that, that concludes the technical requirement details in today's webinar, and I'll hand it back to Andrew.
Thank you very much, Casey. So yeah, we are at the end of the presentation. We threw a lot of information at you, but hopefully you now have an understanding of what is in Draft 2 and the type of feedback we received on Draft 1 and how that affected Draft 2. And also we hope you understand how to use the comment form to provide us feedback. So now we're going to use the rest of the time that we have on a Q&A session. So let us take a look at the questions that have been coming in, and we'll answer some of these live. Let's see, let's pick a good one. All right, I got a question for Jason. Jason, can you tell us if sensor remote controlled is considered a network controller?
Not sure, actually. Need a little bit more information on that. My guess is that the asker is talking about like an infrared remote for a sensor. If that is the case, then the answer would be no, unless that infrared remote is part of a system that is also listed on the NLC QPL. One note that wasn't in the controllability section is that we've maintained the requirement for categories 5 and 6 that the system must be listed on the NLC QPL as well. If for products with a controller, a network controller for a system that is not listed on the NLC QPL, that would drop down to category 1 or 3.
Thank you very much, Jason. Okay. So this is kind of a general question, and people want to know, will we be notified which of our products, if any, would be delisted? And the answer to that is yes, that there will be a notification that goes out, but the details of that will be covered in a future webinar when we go over about how version 6 will be implemented. All right. I'm looking for the next one. Okay. We have a question. What is the difference between a new application and an application to update version 5.1 to version 6? I'm going to throw this one to Casey. I think you'd be best suited. Maybe he doesn't want to today. No.
No, I was having some technical difficulties here in the webinar. It's kind of cutting out a little bit for me. Could you repeat the question?
Yes. I just have to find it because it disappeared. The difference between a new application and an application to update from 5.1 to version 6.
Yeah, so the difference is going to be any new application is basically you're coming at it from you haven't provided any information to us. So if your products already have all the LM79 test reports, for example, that are needed to meet our suite of version 5.1 requirements, a lot of those are likely to still be useful for updating to version 6, rather than needing to reevaluate them again for the first time. So likely to see cheaper and faster applications through an update process, since not everything will need to be reevaluated. That is, of course, going to be specific to your particular products and your performance, whether those worst case LM79 test reports are still applicable and demonstrate compliance to the new thresholds, or whether you need to make updates. So it is definitely going to be custom, but in general, the update process should be easier, cheaper, and hopefully more cost effective for you. So definitely do the update versus letting it be delisted and submitting a new application.
Thank you very much, Casey. Next, we have a question on the solar category for Adrian. So why do solar lights have an efficacy requirement? They use no grid power.
Thank you for that question. It is something that we have considered, and even though solar luminaires, off-grid solar luminaires, don't use grid power, efficacy is still an important consideration for when you're specifying a system to be installed. And since this is kind of our first time that we're specifically calling out solar luminaires and we're only focusing on the luminaire portion itself, efficacy is still the best way that we can guarantee energy efficiency. And there's also considerations for hybrid products which do use energy from the grid.
Great, thank you, Adrian, for that answer. We have another controls question, so I'm going to throw it to Jason. We have someone asking, what is the difference between control-ready product versus category 4, 2 or more sensor functions? Those are not considered as controls-ready products.
So categories 3, 4, 5, and 6 are for products that come with integral controls that are installed at the factory. Controls category 2 is for controls-ready products, which are capable of installing controls after installation without modification of the fixture. So it's two paths of getting to a end product installed in a room with controls installed on the luminaire. Control categories 3, 4, 5, and 6 are for products that that control is installed at manufacturing. Controls category 2 is for those that are installed in the field without modifying the fixture with a receptacle or of some kind.
Thank you, Jason. I think that answers it. We have a question for those of us certifying for the first time. What will the process be like to transition to the new version? And what will the next webinar be about? Is it on August 27th? So again, for questions on transitioning between the versions and applying, we will have a future webinar with all of these details. So we're going to keep this webinar to the questions on requirements only. And the other question about when the next webinar is, we actually have several coming up, so stay tuned to the end of this webinar. I'm going to give some QR codes for 3 webinars we have coming in August. But if you're referring to the final release webinar for this, that is not yet scheduled, but it will be in November. All right. I have another question for Casey. For TM3519, does the manufacturer come up with its own calculation method based on the standard, or is there a standard template like TM21 calculator?
Yeah, great question. I do not believe that there is a publicly available calculator today. That is something that I'll be coordinating with some folks internally and hopefully at the IES on to support getting consistent use of some tool that's available and not have to be developed by manufacturers specifically. In terms of the calculation methodology, that is defined in the standard. So whether you follow it and make your own, IES makes it, or DLC makes it, any option really should be following that industry standard methodology. Good question.
Thanks, Casey. And someone's asking for a clarification on the timeline. So they're wondering products that will meet 6.0 requirements that are 5.1 listed today. Wonder if they'll stay on the QPL after October 1st, 2026, which is the delisting date, or will everything on the QPL be delisted and we have to have those products retested to 6.0? So the answer is no, not everything is going to have to be retested. We're going to cover all these details on how to move through this transition in a future webinar, but products that already meet 6.0 requirements will have a simplified pathway for updating, but there will be more information required since we've expanded some of the reporting and testing information that we need. But good question, thank you for that. Question on Luna for Leora. For Luna, how do you address CCC tunable if some of the available sections are higher than the allowed CCT?
Thank you for that question. That's a good one. So in draft 2, we are clarifying that your CCT tunable product has to include a lower CCT that is in the Luna category. So one of those choices under the lower CCTs has to be between 1800 Kelvin and 3000 Kelvin. And then it's only going to be those lower CCTs that are listed on the Luna QPL. In addition, Luna products have to be shipped at that lowest CCT. So those are the requirements for Luna. I hope that answers your question. If not, follow up in the question pane and we'll have some more conversation.
And Leora, actually, I have another question that I think you'd be well suited to answer. It's on some of those new lamps. Aren't the light distributions of mogul lamps that are currently eligible under 5.1 mostly omnidirectional? How will the omnidirectional general application be differentiated from the existing mogul lamp general application?
That is an excellent question. So we did look at bare lamp product data compared to listed products, and we did find that many of those products indeed are omnidirectional, but there are directional lamps represented across those in luminaire categories as well. And so with a mogul screw base lamp general application and new PUDs, what we're offering submitters, manufacturers, test labs, etc., is a choice. So you can choose to continue to use the in-luminaire requirements, pick your lamp, pick a qualified luminaire, and test it with those luminaire requirements in mind, or use bare lamp testing and test that bare lamp with those efficacy and light output thresholds. We do expect significant overlap, but we do think that the bare lamp testing method is quite a bit simpler, and this is something that manufacturers have asked for. There are new distribution requirements for these bare lamps, so there's a different beam angle requirement, for example, for omnidirectional versus directional, and you will find that, I believe it's in Table 13, and please give us your feedback on that. But we hope that, for example, manufacturers that currently list mogul screw-based lamps using the in-luminaire requirements can continue to use that methodology to upgrade to version 6.0, so they will not have to do new testing if they continue to meet those new thresholds, or if they do not meet those new thresholds and have to update their products or conduct new testing, then they will have a choice of which pathway they want to use. So more choice and more simple testing rubrics for you to use in version 6.
Awesome. Thank you, Leora. And stick around for some more because I got another one for you. Has Florida Fish and Wildlife engaged in the Luna qualification process? And will Luna listed products be accepted by Florida?
That is a good question. We have had some discussions with staff there, whether they bring it into their process is up to them, and hopefully something that they're thinking about. But yes, we have chatted with them both on Luna as well as on some collaborative activities we're on together outside of Luna and DLC.
Thank you very much. And I think for now you're relieved. We're going to go to
Okay.
Jason next.
I'll wait for more questions. Thanks, Andrew.
Yeah, no problem. So Jason, we have someone with more questions on the controls category. So if we had a SKU that had the ability for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, all the categories, does it qualify for premium?
Only those controls options variations that fall into categories 2, 5, and 6. So if a controls option code in that within that SKU orderable would be category assigned category 1, that particular variation would not qualify for premium and would be listed separately.
All right. Thank you, Jason. I know that's a common question that we have also gotten in our inboxes. Yeah, maybe you can just clarify, the progression of the controls options, because I hear a lot of questions on, how they're nested or cumulative, and I think there's confusion. People are believing they're mutually exclusive always.
Yeah, so the controls categories are assignments, we'll say, within a particular product ID. Many luminaires, when they're listed, the model number we'll say, have either in brackets list out the controls options or say all controls or all options. To help support energy efficiency programs, providing incentives for luminaires with integral controls, we're trying to get more information and more detail digging into that model number. So that's the whole point of the controls categories and the controls options table. So for each application, we're collecting information about the variations within a model number and what the different capabilities are for each of those controls options codes. Each controls options code will then get assigned a controls category by the DLC based on the information that is submitted in the controls options table. Then a version of the controls options table will be published on the QPL in the product detail page for each of those products. So users of the QPL who just need the controls category will be able to find that through the model number search function. And then people that need more detail to get inside the category, particularly if there's a sensor technology requirement or something like that, will be able to click through into the product detail page and a controls section to see that the details of what that controls category assignment is.
Thank you, Jason.
Hope that
Yeah,
helps.
this is a big new section, so we're going to get a lot of questions. But now I'm going to move on from the Q&A because we're almost out of time here. But I want to stress that you're free to reach out to us at any time with more questions through email, and we'll be happy to answer those. I know that you might need some clarifications to better inform your comments on the comment form. And then we're going to look at the timeline one last time. So we're in the middle of the draft 2 comment period, which will be over on September 5th, and that it will set us up to release the final version on November 3rd. And then just a few short months away, we will begin accepting applications for version 6 and version 2. On April 20th in 2026, we'll stop accepting applications on the old spec, and August 14th of 2026 is going to be the last date to submit applications to make sure that your products are not taken off the QPL or on the delisting deadline. So this is one webinar in the SSL series this year. We had a couple of webinars associated with Draft 1 that are still available to watch. You can watch them and download the slides. So we had a webinar that got deeper into the Amber and Luna topics, as well as a webinar dedicated to controls. So these ones might have some outdated information that were applicable to only Draft 1, but they are available for you to watch. And we also have several other webinars coming up, and I'll review what each of these QR codes are. So all the way on the left-hand side is QR code that will lead to SSL version 6 and Luna version 2, where you can download the document and also the comment form. So please take a moment and scan that if you haven't already. And then we have some webinars coming up. We have on August 13th, a webinar on the Trade Ally Network, which is a members-only webinar that's going to help our members understand how to better implement some of the details in our Pathways to Connected Lighting document. On August 20th, we're going to be reviewing updates to the SSL QPL. We did a lot of work with people to understand what could be better about the SSL QPL, and so we're releasing those changes. And then on August 27th, there will be another SSL version 6 webinar on sustainability and resilience in lighting. So I encourage you to scan these, register, and attend. And thank you all very much for attending this Draft 2 release webinar. Hope you have a fantastic day.